All right, let's talk about some branching networks. Okay. So there will be some problems here, right? I'll give you some assignment questions for this. It's a good thing to figure out. So, branching networks, right? So if you've ever looked, you've been in a plane or just seen pictures of the landscape, there's this beautiful kind of fractal structure, right? Mountain ranges and all these sorts of things. But river networks have these. Here's a little doodle example. This branching structure. We have them inside us too, right? So our blood networks, we have the arterial structure and then the venal network, right? So it's this coupling of two branching networks. Out from the heart, branches, goes through the capillaries or capillaries? Okay, so I say capillaries. What? Okay. There's some things that I'm losing it. You'll see some spellings that are a bit odd, like I know I put all with 2 L's. Okay. Yeah, I had a student who would wince every time I said capillaries. I don't know why. He would just like visibly kind of like bounce around his chair. He told me it was very painful for him to hear that. So, strange character. Okay, so that's a really interesting network, right? And so angiogenesis has to grow somehow, right? That's pretty weird. It's not a purely branching network. There's a circle of Willis, for example, right? So you've got a little, so some of you biology fans will know this one. You've got a little loop in here so that there's a supply going up on 4 different things, and you can have them occluded. So my old friend Markov, the one who handed me the complexity book years ago, said that he wants to use a brain surgeon to operate on some of the 3 occluded completely. So, it's a good bit of redundancy because you need to keep the scone running, right, on its 20 or 30 watts, which it somehow manages to function on. So branching networks, they're pretty important to us for us, just looking around, but they're at all scales. Okay, you can think about transportation networks in cities. Of course, we've made them. They're a little funny. Animal networks, the way people walk around. Oh, here's a good word, hodology. I was going to put this in somewhere. Germane to the animal networks thing, right? So it's the study of paths and this idea that people, of course, you put down sidewalks or whatever, right? And then people, of course, just walk in ways that make sense to them. And then eventually, sometimes, maybe you'll pay for that. Say, fair enough, And it's interesting to see where, how rutted things can get to before someone says, okay, that really is what people walk. Or they try to patch it over or something. But obviously animals do this and so on. But this is actually it's a study of pathways and sometimes for networks. Right. Interconnections of brain cells, so that's actually just networks. You've got to call it omics, connectomics, craziness. This is an interesting one. Just a fun word. Paths in a person's life space, which is pretty interesting. We often do it, we're a little bit one-dimensional, right? Because you'll have home and work and go like this, track back the same places. 2 types of runners, right? The out and back runner and then the one who always has to go in a loop. Otherwise, it's just a nightmare for them. I don't know if you noticed that.
I'm the out and back guy.
Yeah. So if you get Strava, you can take your stuff from Strava at the end of the year, and you get a little picture, right, of all the things you did. And mine are usually pretty awful, well, because they're all in the basement, but a lot of them are out and back. But you see people do these really interesting. They make very interesting splotches.
Or some people have the craziest out and back, where they just go crazy zigzags, and then they'll follow the zigzags back.
Well, there was a guy in Vancouver, was it, who went out of their way, really figured out in detail, like a connect the dots thing, to make really quite massive sketches, like giraffe shapes.
Oh yeah, I had a friend who wrote his name.
Yeah, quite elaborate. walking storage. Boston, no. So, I mean, of course, with city planning, right? I mean, we have some places that are, they're all grids, especially out in the West in the US, that have just been like, we're going to make this. Manhattan's a great example, right? It's a total disaster down the bottom, and then Houston Street is just sort of a grid. So we seem to, with the Manhattan metric, right? When we actually, that's how we measure things. There was a tweet the other day that said that the average road distance between two places in the US versus the crow flies distance is about 1.41 times as long, which is the square root of 2, right? Because when you look at the whole thing, there's a lot of grid structure. Yeah, so we made it a little odd. Hexagons, it would have been much better. Canberra is all circles, which is unbelievably confusing. When you first get there, you're always going on circles everywhere, and you just have to, yeah. It's good once you're there, but I spent a summer there and I never went on the same. Just walking, I never went the same way twice. You really were going in circles. Burley Griffin is an American architect. I don't know, maybe he was just trolling. I have an idea for you guys. But it is quite fun. Okay, walking paths. All right, Paul Hayes. Okay, so we're going to do that. And the blood network thing. Yes. Actually, so trees are kind of hard to get data on, right? Because you'd love to have all of this branching structure. That's a bit of a hard thing to get hold of. A nice big tree. For a friend of mine, we had this idea of tree bumps that we'd run around and just like sending the signal back and do a 3D image of the tree. We got a little small tree bumps. Roots, you can pull the thing up and look at it. So that's a. There's some data on that. Okay. So there are a couple of different pieces here. So there's supply and collection. So one source to many sinks, things like that. So we can think of the heart, right, as one source to many sinks in 3D. Cities, kind of, with a real center to them. If you think of like downtown or midtown Manhattan, a lot of people work, right? That's kind of sitting in this 3D world, and all these people come in and leave every day. It's got a really, and the density profile of population for Manhattan, for New York City and around is very peaked and drops away. LA is really flat. So, but there are lots of so there are many examples. Again, it's sort of physical, where you have this kind of story going on. And collection, other way around, right? So many sources to one sink, and that's, say, how river networks basically work. And you can think of the venal supply, or the venal network in us, right? We're coming back from all these capillaries or whatever they're called, back to the heart. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, lots of branching things. I mean, evolutionary trees are another interesting example, right? And, we've seen even that apply with that. So the evolutionary diagrams have been applied to stories and sorts of. Organizations are hierarchically structured, but not really. Not entirely, of course. Even the military, it's not really like that. But it's a big piece of it. Okay. And river networks overall have a branching structure. Yes, there are braids, and then there's titles, the tidal structure. Those things are different. There's this big aspect of branchingness. This is good. So visually, yes, straight away you see this thing has some sort of fractal scaling kind of thing, right? Lots of little tiny ones out here. And of course, we like power laws, right? So this is another power law story. We won't get to that straight away. If you randomly select a point on the network, right? So just randomly choose one in space, and look at how big the basin that's attached to it is. So you can look at the length of the main stream, so it's going to be kind of important. So you take this point and you travel up the major string, like always taking the dominant one. Look at that length, and then look at that area that's drained through that point. Then you end up with power law distributions, size distributions for those as well, right? So again, it's one of these stories where very rarely you get to here. You'll get that point. This is like picking Bill Gates out of Bezos, I should say. It's there in front of him, in there. Reasonable competition. So, that's Bezos. This is Bill Gates, right? But most of the time you get tiny ones. And in fact, most of the time, of course, you would actually not really be straight, right? You'd be out space in between. Okay, so Mandelbrot, of course, is famous for coming up with the term fractals, but it seems that the first quantification of scaling of geometric shapes was for river networks by a guy called Horton. It's a paper in 1945. So a very famous geomorphologist or hydrologist who was thinking about these things. Mentioned trees. This is an excellent apple box. There are lots of eucalyptus trees. That's a good one. Yeah. Okay, so let's look at it a little bit. So this is 931, Waldo S. Block, which is just a great name. This is purely sort of drawn, it's hand drawn basically, and it's just the story of what happens with evolving landscapes, right? So you may have a landscape that doesn't have any drainage in it, maybe because of some rapid uplift. Right? So there's always this backdrop of geologic movement. And then so there's some initiation that it grows into the space, what's called elaboration, and then piracy. So these terms are a little strong, but piracy, which means that the divide between two valleys can move in a certain move, but this river basin, or this little basin over here, starts to collect more water, and this one can backwards. So this evolution over time, where some, maybe that, lots of things happen, right? There's meandering, there is the breaking off of loops, all sorts of pieces, and collapsing coastlines and so on. So there can be changes in the details of the sometimes quite extreme. Okay, so this is sort of looking at this long-term history, and it's really actually just, it's a nice piece, it's quite old, but it's this, here's the lifespan of a geomorphological surface. Maybe 20 years ago, I guess now, when we were starting to get good data from Mars, this was sort of this big issue, is there water on Mars, right? And one of the things that people were looking for was, if you see some sort of branching structure, is that evidence of a river network? Or is it just, it could be just avalanching, right? So, and that was never really quite sorted out. Now we know, also about the Martians, but I kid you not, I sat on a plane the other day from here to, it was from here to JFK, and the guy next to me was a total conspiracy theorist. And I'm saying this because he did mention that there'd been moon bases for 1,000 years and they won't tell us about it. Also Mars. Funny thing he said about Mars was that there's only a few pictures that they show us, right? He talked about the Cabal that's been around since the Roman times. Wow, there was a lot of information. Really serious, and he said, why do they only show us a few pictures of Mars, right? Because clearly there's other stuff that there are structures and beings or whatever. But it turns out actually we have better imaging of Mars than the Earth, right? It's not as big, no atmosphere, we've run a bunch of little satellites around it. We have really great satellite data for Mars. Better than we have here, because the whole cloud thing is a little messy. That's a bit bigger. Anyway, I didn't mention that. I wrote some of it down. There's some more things in there. But yeah, the moon bases thing, that kind of was surprising. Okay. All right. Anyway, so here's this. Wow. So here's, you could look at this. And of course, here's a problem. This is just sketches. This is very hard to see because we just have now. We don't have a record of what, we can see geologic history. You dig down, you can find things, fossils and stuff, different layers, right? So you can see the history of it and how things turned and so on. But the surface is this just it gets erased. There are ancient riverbeds and so on. You can find those sorts of things, but it's a little bit harder. So we don't have. Here is the last 100,000 years for this landscape. Right? We don't have an easy way of measuring that. However, let me see if I can get this to work. So here's a simulation. Does not work. Oh yeah. Wow. See how bad this is. So this was I first got this on a VHS tape. It's Bruce Shaw and Marcello Magnasco, Rockefeller. Bruce Shaw is at LDO. And this is the resolution. I mean, it's really the resolution. So they made this. I'll just show a little bit of this. They made this. So it was for Leo Kadanoff, who passed away recently. He's a very famous physicist. It's just great. Obviously, I mean, this is just great stuff. So they made this. I'm going to jump onto this. This is going to be much faster. They made this simulation. And at the time, there really was nothing like this. This is really incredible. They've got a lot of text, so let's jump over that. Right, so they made all this good stuff, right? And so it's starting to look like a network structure. I think if I can get the Grand Canyon. This is actual real data, right? So this is from digital elevation models, or DEMs, which is from satellites, right? So this is the Grand Canyon. So they're interested in, can they make this at least with a simple model? This work was never published because they just couldn't. It's interesting. They figured out they just couldn't really justify. They couldn't figure out how to write about it, I suppose. And then the computer died, and all of the code and everything died, and they lost everything. And then a few years later, it turned out I was the only one who had one of these VHS cassettes, so I sent it back to them and rehabilitated it. But it was great work. So here's a nice example of a toy model. So this is pretty good, but this is what the landscape looks like, right? It's just like this very thin carpet. It had network properties. It looked good. So they're going to add things like there's going to be diffusion, there's going to be avalanching, so you can see this kind of avalanching, so things will fall down, there'll be an angle of repose. And it starts to get somewhere. I just want to show a few of these things. I guess I could cut this down to the right stuff. This is impressive. So it's pretty good. It's pretty good. So there's long been this debate about, well, okay, this is network-like. What do we measure about this, and how do we compare that to a real thing and say, we're in the ballpark? Visually, it kind of looks all right. Here's one where they have different erosion on different sides. But yeah, this is just lost. This is lost work. So there was a bit of a boom time in the 90s where a lot of people were making little models. I had my own ridiculous thing. But there was always this problem of, does it look like, how does it look like the real thing? I mean, this is probably as close as anyone came at the time. It would turn out to be a hard thing to model, to make a lab model of, because no one could figure out really what sort of soil to put in, because it would sort of just wash away, right? The scales are just sort of wrong. But I think some people have been able to get somewhere where they can finally produce, with the right kind of potting soil, something that looks like a continental landscape. Anyway, so we moved away to actually just looking at satellite data and saying, well, let's get the description right. So that's what I'm going to do. It's pretty great. That is pretty old. Okay, so I can just tell you a few things to start this off. So drainage basin. It's just going to be, if we go to a point on landscape or go to a point on the network, so point P, it's going to be the area. If a raindrop comes like a drop falling in here, it's going to actually reflect into this and then pass through that part of the stream. So not shown in here all the divides, right? So if you walk around this landscape, there'd be a divide between these two areas. And so if we think of this again as the flood network, right? So the heart would be here, and this would be the pillars, so flood flows out, it branches very interesting, right? So it comes out quite fast, and it has to be very slow because you really want one cell at a time, basically going through a sort of diffusion, because there isn't a beautiful answer to diffusion. From what I understand, no apologies. So it has to be slow, and then it has to get speedy. And we'll get to that later on. It turns out that the branching kind of changes in a nice way. There's an optimal structure called Burley Circle. Beautiful thing. Okay. So, yeah, point on a stream. Basins contain basins, right? So we'll have to think about that later on. Yep, right. So we have a drainage basin on every point on the landscape. Of course, we're going to put this on a grid, which will actually just have a big matrix representing the landscape. So we'll go to each point. If you have the hill slope, right, so coming from a divide, then you can imagine that flow just sort of really just kind of comes down. So it's always like, there aren't actual channels, but you sort of imagine this linear, these little linear ones. And of course, there's subsurface flow, and that's a more complicated thing. That's a harder thing. Okay, so this is really for large-scale networks, and the kinds of things we'll look at will be continental. Right. So here are a couple of definitions. Let's talk about some of these. Okay, so here's an example basin. This is flow coming out here. So if we're at this point, if we wandered up the stream, we go up the longest one to the end of the channel. This will be the length of that longest stream. And so because streams are usually fractal, so not too much, right? There's a little bit of wiggling here, so it depends on the resolution. Right? So if you have really coarse kind of resolution of this thing, and then you refine that, smaller, this guy will get longer, right? So it is somewhat fractal. So we'll get to that later on. But here's the area then. That'll be A, will be the area of this whole basin, which is water falling down. This is this little length here, this little stream. So there's a sub-basin here, yes? And there's a sub-basin here, and so on, right? So there's a basin at every point, and this is just sort of starting one within the bigger basin. And then there's a couple of characteristic lengths. You imagine orienting this thing, so there's an overall, just this is a Euclidean length, and then a width. We'll call it perpendicular parallel. And here are the same for this basin. So one of the things that's been sort of floating around is that there'd be, so we took red scaling instead of pucks, allometric scaling for these basins. Right? So we'll get to that. The idea that there's some sort of interesting ways in which basins fit together. All right. Okay, just a reminder. So isometry, right? You rescale everything in the same way. Visually, this piece looks the same as this guy. Not how trees work, but the rescaling here is such a different dimensions or different sides of this thing gets scaled in different ways. That's of course just 2 points. It's not enough to show you that that's what's happening. But if we went out to one more, this would get skinnier and much faster. Prove that, I guess. Yeah. And so this is a good place to stop. So this will be, we'll read it the slide, but this is the sort of the interesting thing about networks that got a lot of people, physics and geomorphology and so on, excited about it. There was some history of science here, which is that this length of the longest stream is scaling as the area to the edge. It's an odd way of putting it. So this is meters, this is meters squared. So if this was just dimensional analysis, this would be a half, right? This would make sense. Areas length squared length, which would be a half. This is an example of the fractalness, right? So that this length again of the stream is scaling somewhat faster than the length of the. But it's not a linear thing, so this is a bit greater than 1. And then you can combine those two together, and you get how area scales as length. The longitudinal length. Right, so this does seem to be a weak fractal scaling, 1.1. The suggestion was that this from observations in the 50s that this exponent here was not a half, but maybe a bigger 0.6. We'll get to a lot of argument about scaling. And this is known as Hack's law, after the person made the assertions about it. And if it really is greater than a half, what that means is, if you think about this, is that bigger basins are thinner, they're becoming thinner and thinner and thinner. So they're elongated, which is a little bit odd. But it may be that that's sort of happening internally and not really at the larger structure. Anyway, we'll get at actual data, and we'll look at how all these things combine with each other. This is a good example of a system that has scaling laws and where we have scaling relations that connect those scaling laws together. And the usual game is that you want to have as few parameters as possible. Turns out for root networks, there's only a couple. But we'll really get into the detailed architecture of branching networks. It turns out that they're not pure hierarchies, they're mixed hierarchies, and this is true of blood networks as well. And they're very small, and you'll see it here, right? So small branches can come off large branches. It's not the sort of very simple-minded thing, big to smaller to smaller to smaller. You actually have, even the largest network will have this largest stream will have tiny little streams coming in. So it turns out that's quantifiable, and that was some beautiful work done by Takunaga. This was not really known as a Japanese guy. And it was published in Japanese journals. It wasn't really known in the US or outside of Japan, maybe for 20 or 30 years. So we'll get to that. Quite beautiful. Everything will fit together in a nice way. This is still a field where I feel like there isn't a beautiful theory, right? There's reasonable description now. We'll get better. But this is something where we have a good sense of how things fit together from a description point of view, and I'm going to lay that out for you. But in terms of some magical theory that explains it all, I don't think it really exists. There's a lot of, this is sort of area that people get published in Nature and Science now and then, right? Because they've got their big story. But there you go. Okay, so kind of underway with where we are, complex networks. I guess I'll be over there today if you want to come by and talk. But we won't have assignments until maybe, well, I'll probably send one out on Thursday. I think I'll have enough stuff in front of you for you to take off. But talk about projects and think about them as becoming papers. And I'm very happy to talk about those things as soon as possible. All right. Okay.